And we are live. Welcome back to episode 20. Episode 20, guys. Can you believe it? Episode 20 of To the Unknown Pod. This is a podcast where, actually, first let's introduce ourselves. I'll let you, I'll go first. My name is Jordan Bush. I'm the executive director of TGFB Media, which exists to help Christians understand and use Bitcoin for the glory of God and good of people everywhere. I'm joined by Ryan and Matt. Ryan, introduce yourself, and then Matt, you can follow.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Finley, tech entrepreneur, father of 6. Bitcoin triple maxi. It's good to be here.
I'm Matt Purvis, still working on my maxi card according to this the strict rules of this podcast, anyways. And also father of 6, business owner, and longtime pastor in Hawaii.
Using what we like to call the right way. Yes, you're working on it. It's okay. We'll get you there. So yeah, we are here. So if you have stumbled in here somehow and you wondered what in the world is this supposed to be, we are Christians. We are dads. We are husbands. And so when we spend time on Twitter, we don't just want to leave it there and then just have quote unquote wasted that time. We want to redeem it. So what we do is we just basically use this podcast as kind of like a debrief session from the most helpful things that we found on Twitter. Things that might have to do with investing, might have to do with scripture, might have to do with parenting, husbandry, any one of a number of things. And so we kind of bring them here, and then we just debrief with some of our good friends who are experts and have succeeded in different fields, and so they bring expertise, and then we kind of talk about this thing. So this week we are here. We're missing Ash. It's become a reoccurring theme. We miss him. Hopefully he'll be back next week. Spending all this time with family and stuff. Like, what's that all about? My goodness. Like, what? I don't get it, but hopefully he'll return. But meanwhile, Bitcoin is just pumping the living daylights out right now. I believe we've come down a little bit. I think we're at like 117. Bitcoin, Ryan, pumped up to $123,000. And so again, we just have a whole lot of stuff going on. We want to just kind of, again, this is not going to be a full blown. We're not going to be singing the Pump It Up song. We're not going to be have that latently in the background. But we are going to kind of talk about it a little bit. Joe Consorti, friend of the program, shared this. $1.3 billion in shorts were liquidated in less than 60 seconds a couple days ago. Bitcoin skipped straight past 120K and went directly to 121,000 US dollars. That is at 2.3 trillion market cap. Bitcoin is now officially larger than Amazon.com and is the world's fifth largest asset. This is insane, guys. Okay, insane that Bitcoin is at a bigger market cap than Amazon. It's probably down smaller than Amazon right now just because of this recent little dip here. But holy cow, just absolutely nuts. I'll let you guys kind of take it from there. Anybody? I mean, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
There's a proverb about give me not too much and not too little. And I'm just like, in my personal life, I'm waiting for my ACH to clear so I can buy some more. And I'm hoping God has a good plan for my life because, so for me, a little sideways action is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. It's true. It could be dangerous. We're happy that Ryan is being sanctified, even if his bank account coffers are not being filled.
If we see a pretty good dip, everyone should know that at least one pastor in Hawaii will be happy.
We'll blame him. I like this. I like having a
faithfully praying for a dip.
I definitely like that we can have someone to blame. That's good preparatory work there from our man in Oregon. So yeah, we got just a ton of stuff going on. Now again, there's probably a lot of people. I mean, there's just tons of voices, right, in the Bitcoin space that we are grateful for. Well-known folks who are friends of TGFB, friends of ours, Preston Pish. We've got Mark Moss. We've got, Jeff Booth is an acquaintance. We are grateful for these guys. Somebody like Lynn Alden producing great content. Just tons of friends of ours who are producing tons of great content. And you're probably expecting to hear some of their names on this program. There probably are some other names that you would never in a million years expect to see on this program. And probably near the top of that list would be one Udi Wertheimer. Okay, Udi Wertheimer. He is of a number of famous things. He's just done a bunch of I can't remember what's the Wizards, the Taproot Wizards. Done a bunch of stuff. He's not like a Bitcoin only guy, and yet he had this tweet yesterday that I meant to share and then it didn't work, called "This Bitcoin Thesis Will Retire Your Bloodline." Okay, now we don't need to go read through this whole thing because it is long, but we will. You should go find this. Go find Udi's. His Twitter account. Here's basically what he says. Here's his thesis. He basically looks at what happened with Dogecoin. Okay, and he basically says, I think that what happened with Dogecoin is a harbinger of what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Namely this, early on, Dogecoin's a complete joke. People were just, thought it was hilarious. They accumulated massive positions in these things. So quote unquote Doge whales had all, gazillions of these scam tokens. And then they had like this group of, people, there was some interest. And so the coin pumped, they went up to like 10X or something. And so then some people sold some, more people came in. And so once this thing had pumped like 10X, they just were kind of your 100X, 20X, whatever. You had a lot of these people who just basically said, well, I mean, we've made a ton of money, and then they sold. And then there's a whole bunch of new people. Elon starts tweeting about Doge. A number of other people start tweeting about Doge. Doge is one of like 7 coins in 2022 or something that was on Robinhood. And so then you had this whole nother wave of retail people who just started buying Doge because it was the unit bias is real, and they were able to buy gazillions of these things relative to the amount of Bitcoin that they were able to purchase, the amount of Ethereum and whatever you've got going on. And so it ended up resulting in I think a 200X or 2000X, some insane thing. And once it had pumped to these levels, you had a lot of these people who'd been holding since the beginning who were just like, this is insane. They sold their entire positions, became super, super wealthy, very quickly. And they thought, boom, that's the end of it. Well, the problem was that you now had all these new people who, for them, it was the beginning. And so they're holding lots of these things. And so then it ended up being another huge pump up from there. And so what Udi is talking about is the fact that something similar, he believes, is happening with Bitcoin, which is you have a lot of these Bitcoin whales who've been holding since 2009, 2010, 2011, 12, whatever it is, who have thousands of Bitcoin or tens of thousands of Bitcoin. And these people have been unloading Bitcoin once we got to 100K, and especially once we get to something like 120K. For them, they're multi-billionaires. I mean, it's insane how much money they've got. And so they're just in unload their position mode. Meanwhile, you have tons of, Bitcoin, you have these treasury companies, you have large companies like BlackRock, you have a whole bunch of just normal businesses who are feeling the pressure, who are realizing that they're short Bitcoin, and they are buying up like multiples of the daily issuance every day. They're just buying up all the Bitcoin times 5, 6 of the daily issuance. There's so much demand out there that it's not even funny. And so much of what's going on. So Udi is basically saying, hey, we're watching this same thing happen in real time. People are thinking that, this is going to be the top. And he's just basically saying, no, I think that we're going to cycle up. He's like, I think we're going to get to $450,000. And then if we get to then you could see something similar happen where a new set of people start to sell off some of their stuff. And you're going to have even more pressure from these massive institutions, massive nations, and all of these things who are just going to be buying, who have different time horizons and who have basically effectively unlimited money to be able to buy this scarce asset. And so he's just basically saying, now is not the time for altcoins. Now is not the time for any of these other things. They're all going to get left in the dust because the game right now is accumulate Bitcoin. That is the game. It's always been the game, but now more than ever, it really is the game. And so again, was not expecting Udi to be the voice of reason, but here we are. Udi's not everything. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. And Udi's been right about other things in the past. So it shouldn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise us completely. But I just found this really compelling, and I think it's going to get a lot crazier before it gets less crazy.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like he's relating it in a way like it's gonna do the same thing as Doge overall, go up and then pop.
Well, no, yeah, he's not saying. I don't think he's saying that. He's just saying, yeah. I mean, I don't think he's saying that. He's basically saying, hey, this thing is going to keep going up. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. Again, pardon. Our kids at home won't be able to read this, but basically which is good. So he basically says Bitcoin is bigger than Dogecoin, so maybe we don't see a 10x straight away. But as I said before, I have a high degree of confidence that we'll see $400,000 by the end of the year. And this target might be too conservative, just given the nature of things that are going on. And then again, you might see a correction, like that's possible, but it's also very, very possible that that correction like doesn't happen, because by that point, as it gets to that point, like there's a certain point at which, like right now, you still have the vast majority of companies on the stock exchange, the vast majority of countries who have sovereign wealth funds and all these things, they still don't own any Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're still short.
They still don't have any positions.
Yeah.
And for them, if you're talking about a nation that's hundreds of billions of dollars, or tens of billions of dollars in the case of even these small countries, you're still talking massive amounts of money that could pour in to buy Bitcoin. And again, that doesn't even count the United States, who has at least nominally said that they're going to start accumulating Bitcoin, as far as we know, have not been buying Bitcoin. And so like, you're just really, and they have, really have unlimited money that has more purchasing power than anything else out there. And so I just think things are going to get insane. And yeah, I'm not at all convinced that this is not a super cycle, that we're going to see another correction. I'm not at all convinced that that's the case.
Yeah, and you also have the financial advisors that are finally capitulating. I think. Yeah. One friend of ours said that, I think we said this a few episodes ago, but the career risk is going to be not recommending at least a small investment into Bitcoin to clients by the end of the summer or this fall.
Yep.
Versus it was the career risk the other way up until this point. And that's significant because that's a huge percentage of the wealth, in the United States.
Yeah.
And then you got, Wall Street short, most of Wall Street short. All the pension funds.
It seems
governments.
Low.
Yeah.
It's,
I agree.
Yeah. Elon short. Like, this is the thing is, once you start to wake up to the reality, like once these guys really, it takes time, and the average, these guys are all busy. All these governments are busy. They're, the average politician in the United States spends 50% of their time on the phone trying to raise money. So they're spending half their time trying just to raise money to be elected again. And the other half of the time, they're trying to get stuff done on Capitol Hill. All of these businesses are trying to deal with tariff realities. They're trying to deal with, just inflation realities. They're sitting here trying to deal with all these things and just day-to-day things. And so it takes time for them to reconcile with the need to spend the time and the resources and the energy to understand Bitcoin, much less to start allocating capital to it. And so again, we're just now hitting this point we're more than 2% of, where more than 2% of companies and nations are considering or actually accumulating Bitcoin. We are just still, absurdly early.
Yeah.
And but again, I think the urgency is there for a lot of these people. I think they're starting to wake up to how late it is for them.
I had a buddy of mine message me the other day, and we were talking a little bit about, at a certain point, at a certain price point, if you have, and this is going to be different for everyone, but it's like your age and also the amount of Bitcoin you have. At a certain point, like, you're a little bit less price sensitive to like when you sell at, because life is short, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that have been in. Bitcoin's been around for almost 16 years now.
Yep.
That means that a lot of the early Bitcoiners have been in for a long time.
Yeah.
And at $120,000, that is a huge amount of wealth that.
Yeah.
Why not cash out a bunch of it and just live? These people aren't going to sell all their Bitcoin, but they'll sell a bunch and so it's and honestly, that's going to happen from here on out. Like there's going to be different waves of Bitcoiners that are going to, they'll cash in
I saw one
Or-
yesterday that was like
Yeah.
$32,000 position that sold for like 9.2 billion or something like that, and it was on the
Yep.
blockchain, and not again. I might lose my maxi card again, but I would probably do it too. Some of it, because if you're in that position, I'm a believer. It's not going to get hacked. It's not going to get what do you call this? That the quantum mechanic. It's not going to get any of that stuff. But would I take my like
computing,
10 generation money and bet all my 10 generations and bet all of it on it? No, I wouldn't do that, because I'm not even technical enough to have 100% certainty. So if I was in their shoes and I had everything, and if there's a 1% chance, that's way too high. 1% is way too high. You know.
And again, that's the reality. Is, I mean, these guys. I mean, there's somebody yesterday sold 80,000 Bitcoin. Like, I mean, that's absurd. That means they definitely didn't just sell all their Bitcoin. They probably just sold like maybe maximum half.
That's
probably likely less than that. And so you're just, I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. So he just became a billionaire. Congratulations. You just became, what is that? Is it 2 billion? I can't remember what it is. However many billion it is, you just became a billionaire yesterday. Now, again, you got a big tax bill, you got a bunch of other stuff, but I mean, these guys have, it's absurd how much money, and you absolutely should be taking some off the table to do things, like, especially if you're a Christian. Like, you should be taking some off to live. You should be taking some off to, give to charities, give to, we have a number of nonprofits represented, Christian Bitcoin nonprofits represented on this call. And so I just think it's one of these things where, the reality of the amount of money, and taking some off the table, to just, again, not even lock in some gains, but it's just like, hey, I have needs and can do a lot of good things right now with this money.
I know a family on Maui that has like 90 acres right where Jaws surf, is, and if you get land like that, and he's got multiple families living there, and he's got his own family living there, and if you raise some cows, you probably pay zero taxes. And so, as much as we may want to hate on real estate, this is probably not the direction where our talk today is going. But you would diversify at some level, in case space aliens come and like crack Bitcoin or something like that.
Yeah. Again, it's about just diversifying. Just the reality is, if I had 10,000 Bitcoin, I would definitely be selling some right now, because I don't own a house. I don't own a home. I don't know how, I'm just kind of like in between things. And so again, and then on top of that, if there's other things, money exists for a purpose. Money exists to be used. It doesn't always exist to just sit there and be potential, this limitless, boundless potential of what you could do. You should be actively thinking about, what can I do with this? What should I be doing? You should be thinking through what it would take for you to, what you would want to do with the amount of purchasing power,
you sparked something in me that might relate to our other stuff too. And it's as a Christian, as a husband, father, everything like that. I feel like there's, in some parts of the Bitcoin world, a kind of anxiety over, like, this is the one chance in my lifetime.
Yeah.
There's not going to be another chance. It's the one chance to get a hold of something which will give me generational wealth.
Yeah.
And what I see that I would encourage people not to have is this idea, like, I can never build something that's great. I can never earn any more money doing anything other than Bitcoin. I can never... If I miss this chance, that's it for me. I'm just going to be a wage earner as the dollar dies. And I just want to encourage people, buy Bitcoin and realize that if you have your life ahead of you, it's a life of service and productivity and building and family and all these other things. And to kind of strike that balance, have the conviction. But your life is not, this is not like your one chance to do something. This is a once in a multiple lifetime maybe chance to catch on to something when it's at that 2% rate you talked about, Jordan. But your life does not consist of what time you got on the train.
Yeah, I think the best way, because, like, on the one hand, yes, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and at the same time, there's something that's more important, and, like, there's other things that are more important. And so it's the same thing of like it's the same idea of where Jesus says, let those who have husbands or wives live as though they had no wives. It's
Solid.
like there's this real sense in which we're supposed to be all in and yet have an open hand. Like both of these things are true. You're supposed to you're supposed to work and work under the Lord and work hard, and then also just work with the realization that you might die tomorrow. And so there's this two sides of the coin that you really need in order to be living the way that God wants you to live. Like life is complex, and it's not just, it's designed to be lived in reliance upon the Lord. And I think that's kind of what we're getting at is like you're loving and serving your neighbor and loving and serving God has to happen on 2 time horizons. Has to happen right now, and it has to happen with a view towards the future. That's what faithful stewardship looks like. And so, I think that, it's gonna get crazier, and we should be, actively thinking about, what to do and what we're gonna do when as it does continue to get crazier.
Yeah.
The other side of this, okay? So Udi is basically saying, man, all of these companies, all of these nations are buying Bitcoin. These things are all just going nuts. And we need to be, you should be ready. You should be buying Bitcoin. We have another, it's not a different perspective. I would say it's kind of along the same lines. This is from John Ratliff. I believe this is Ryan. You shared this. John Ratliff says this. I would like to debunk. Oh, what'd you say?
I said my neighbor. He's like about 20
That's
minutes
right.
from me now.
So I would like to debunk the myth that retail Bitcoin investors are ever going to come back. I keep seeing people ask, when will retail wake up to this bull run, the Bitcoin bull run? They're missing the point. Retail isn't coming back. It's been priced out. At roughly $120,000 per coin, owning a whole Bitcoin is beyond most budgets, and the chance to scoop one up at $10 is long gone. Retail demand was always fueled by stories of tiny stakes turning into fortunes. That era is over. Even if Bitcoin hits $1 million, that's only 8x from here. So a $1 buy nets $8. Nice, but hardly life-changing. No wonder small investors are chasing meme coins and alts, hoping to double in weeks instead of years. True retail adoption won't come from spot exchanges. It will arrive when 401ks, IRAs, and index funds allocate to Bitcoin. That shift is already underway. Corporations, hedge funds, and governments are stacking sats. Main Street will tag along through their planned sponsors. For those of us who got in early and held, there will be more upside ahead, but don't expect a flood of new retail buyers on Coinbase anytime soon. Guys, what do you think? You agree with Ratliff? You think he's full of it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of sad, but there's a lot of truth to it. I've seen some high net worth retail that has kind of been on the sidelines watching this and has been told Bitcoin is bad for anywhere from 5 to 7 years since it's been on people's radar a little bit more. And I've had several individuals reach out to me to find out more, like we're going to get coffee, things like that. So high net worth retail that is actively thinking about investments and wrestling, kind of like they're willing to put in the work because they view themselves as like responsible investors. They're not going, like they're actually starting to come on board now.
Yeah.
I think that's going to only increase, especially as the financial advisors start giving their blessing.
Correct.
But yeah, I like the smaller retail, which is just your average person. It's really sad. People are strapped. I mean, you can look at the credit card balance, with the amount of credit card debt. It's like all-time high right now. People are cost of living is extremely expensive. Inflation's still high, still going up. Food's super expensive. Wages haven't kept up with inflation at all. They never do. So normal people are tapped out. And like we were talking before we went on air, those people aren't like most people like us. I would say the three of us too. Like we weren't trained to like be super wise with our money when we were young, and so sadly, the people that need to be investing the most aren't even thinking about it. They're literally just trying to survive, let alone try to get ahead for tomorrow. And it's really sad. I mean, I've had so many conversations where people just, it's not like despair, but it's just like,
it's not even in your it's not in your consciousness, and I've been there myself where it's like, okay, maybe it's paycheck to paycheck, but it's the idea, like, if my brakes go out on my car, that's everything. And I might be paying, and I might pay for it on credit card for the repair. You know what I mean? So in that case, like, okay, maybe I have $1,000, but I'm not just going to shove that into Bitcoin because life happens. And so it's not even it's a lack of vision in one sense, but it's not even your fault. It's like living day to day, week to week is a whole mindset. And then if you hear people like us come in and there's multiple levels higher than, our age and our, I referred once to a mutual friend of ours as like being in his investor arc part of his journey, right? And I'm not in my investor arc. I'm still in my working arc. But if you can get there, great for you. But it just sounds like the teacher from Peanuts, wah, 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 wah. We're like, well, I can't invest, so good for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the quote that Wealth Squad Chris, I followed him for a number of years on X. He says, make money, buy Bitcoin. That's a real simple way of thinking about it. That even if you're late 5 years from now, the idea is this is a revolution away from fiat, which is losing whatever they say. What you guys would probably say like 8% on a decent year, 5%, 8%, whatever it might be. That's what you're losing. So even if you're late, you should not have it in a checking account. You should not have it in a savings account. You should have it in Bitcoin. So that's that. Maybe that's part of it to, to get through your head is this is what you should be saving, and no matter when you get to it.
Yeah, and I would encourage some of the conversations I've had with my kids, because all of a sudden Bitcoin's at 120,000. I'm like, okay, what are my kids thinking about? Like, their little brains are like, well, I can't. Obviously, they're like, I can't. How can they get $120,000 to buy a Bitcoin? And I'm just encouraged them, like, look out 20 years. Bitcoin could be up 200x. Like, it will legitimately 200x from here. So just pick an amount. If it's $100, like, times it by 200, and like, are you willing to sacrifice a short-term pleasure, or like not do something, or is there something you could sell? Like, I would say just start buying a little bit and saving it for the future. And it's gonna, 200x is significant. And it compounds, and it's like good behavior compounds.
We rightfully rag on Dave Ramsey quite a bit, but if you combined Dave Ramsey with accumulating Bitcoin, if you accumulated like debt snowball and then put your, like, somebody needs to, we should do this. Like, this is what we should do, is like put together like, we shouldn't even talk about this, but because I really think it's a good idea.
My blood pressure is going up right now.
But yeah,
I wrote a blog post in 2013.
Did you really?
I wrote a blog post explaining why I did not invest in Bitcoin when it was $13 each. And it was literally because of Dave Ramsey and his debt snowball, and how you weren't supposed to do any investing until all your debt was gone. And then it blew up and went up to 1,000. And then I went through my first several cycles of where I've just completely missed it and blah blah blah. So all that to say, if you have a little bit of debt, still buy some Bitcoin, because it's a positive. It's a positive behavior to because all of a sudden you're going to see the fruit of you've saved something, and then it grew in value, and then you can add more to it, even while you're still paying off your debts.
I can testify that it's changed my behavior already, because, and I'm trying to think what the term is, but people are talking about, for a business, this is what you have to beat now. There's a term for that.
Hurdle rate. Hurdle rate.
This is your new hurdle rate. So I'll give you an example in my life. I have a skid steer that I have use of, and I've thought to myself, maybe I'll make some money using this too. And it belongs to another entity, but I've made an arrangement. And I was like, I'll buy a trailer. If I buy a trailer, put the word out there, I can make a good hourly, spend time with my kids. And I haven't bought a trailer, guys. I haven't bought a trailer because I'm like, normal thinking. Let's say I get a trailer for $10,000. Worst case scenario, I can sell it used for 8,000, give it a paint job,
Yeah.
sell
Yeah.
it used for 8,000 later. Now, the hurdle rate is wait just a second, $10,000, and shout out to Ryan's son's / Marty Bent's
Opportunity
app,
cost.
Opportunity
Yeah,
Cost, which
Yeah.
shows you what everything costs in Bitcoin. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm waiting, even though I could make some income. So having that hurdle rate in your mind, especially in the next few years, has changed my behavior, and it's continuing to make me think, what investments am I going to make, and even income-wise, what am I going to try to work on that's going to do better than if I just tried to plow things into Bitcoin. And on the topic of the Dave Ramsey, maybe I won't go into too much detail, but I personally took out a line of credit I had available a couple days ago, and I made myself a spreadsheet where I'm tracking every single day how much interest has accrued, and every single purchase, and it's automatically calculating for me based on the Bitcoin price how it compares to the interest that I'm accruing on that specific loan.
Yep.
So that's I'll share it if anybody wants it, but it was something for myself to go. I know every single day it's like $17 or something like that.
Yep.
That I'm paying an interest. That's a lot. I'm gonna do it for at least 3 months and see what the results are. But I'm conscious. I'm aware. I'm sober minded that I'm gonna do it for 3 months, and that's like a $1,500 bet.
Yeah.
Just interest, and I'm gonna assess after that. I'm pretty sure I'll be happy.
Yeah. Again, like that's the type of thing where, again, what Dave Ramsey is basically saying is, like, Dave Ramsey's like, all my listeners are drug addicts, right? And so it's like, so if you're a drug addict, you shouldn't be using any nicotine, you shouldn't be using any kind of, or if you're morbidly obese, you shouldn't be consuming any donuts. Like, this is like, it's just setting you on a path. And yet, for like the average person, like, okay, well, what if I'm not morbidly obese? What if I'm not a drug addict? Like, can I drink can I drink a beer, or can I, have like a glass of wine? It's like, that's like, those are defensible things. Like, the question is, do you have self-control? And so if you have self-control, like, you have to answer it. You have to know yourself. If you have self-control, then, like, okay, then yeah, some of these things, especially now, again, I'm speaking out both sides of my mouth a little bit, because like the scriptures, again, are super clear. Oh, no man anything. Like that is a Bible verse. That is a one
except love.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no man anything except to love one another. Exactly. And yet, like, again, this is something that we can talk about is, again, even like biblically speaking, there are and we could go through tons of examples. At some point, we just need to go over this one piece that I wrote. But just basically, you have something like, you look at, you just have things where the scriptures will say something, and then it'll say the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Or it'll give you an example of somebody living the exact opposite of what this counsel says in one part of the Bible. And the reality is, like, context matters. Like, it really does matter. And so I'm super sympathetic to people, and I think there's wisdom in like looking at strategically, wisest serpent's action that basically looks at and understands the situation that we're in, that literally all money is debt. Like, all of our money is debt. And so trying to basically, and understand that because it's debt, you're just 100% being stolen from at all times. Like, any debt that's taken out is stealing purchasing power. And so, like, I do think there is like strategic, there's a strategic warrant to be looking and thinking about that, and just, taking that seriously, of just like, hey, this is one of these things where, I should I, and at least asking the question, like, should I be, is it wise for me to strategically take out some debt, either from, it just depends on what whether it's what's it called, not a mortgage, but like where you take money out of your
home equity,
like something like that. Like, there's strategic advantage, taking, looking at the time that we're in, looking at, where Bitcoin's at. And then, but again, the other important thing is not being crazy, like being, not taking the point, not having debt to the point where, oh, you're going to get wrecked if Bitcoin doesn't absolutely act like a home run for the next 2 years or whatever. And so, again, I think that's at least a conversation that people should be having and be thinking about, while still asking yourself and looking at your own situation and being honest with yourself, because I think a lot of people, it's like the people who need to hear one thing want to hear the other thing.
Yeah.
They want,
Yeah,
they're like,
and-
oh, I
and-
want to, do this.
That's why the Lord is the best teacher in the universe and beyond, actually. And his way of teaching is mimicked by Yoda and any other Bruce Lee and any other great teacher. You have him say, on the one hand, there's this.
Yep.
On the other hand, there's this.
Yep.
And you're supposed to work it out. And I would challenge anyone who thinks the Bible's full of contradictions that about 97% of what you think are contradictions are just this type of pedagogy, this type of teaching. A lot of times it'll be Moses, like one paragraph, next paragraph. The Bible contradicts itself. No, it's he's laying the field out for you to understand,
Yep.
And
you don't need to say everything at all times.
That's right.
Like you can say a true thing that is incomplete. Like you don't like, and then I had a tweet about this the other day. I should have shared it, but it's basically like modern. This is worthy of its own episode. Is like modern Christians. We feel like if we are not saying all of the truth at any given time, we're not telling the truth or we're being unfaithful or something. And it's just like, guys, then Jesus is guilty. Like if that's the case, then Jesus is guilty because Jesus all the time communicates in ways that are purposefully not as clear as he could be.
Yeah.
Like he does this a lot. And again, there in so much of Proverbs it's timely wisdom. And wisdom needs context. It needs a situation in order to be applied in. And so again, there's times where it's like, oh, I'm in this situation. Okay, well then you need to hear this. So much of the way that Jesus responds to people depends on what situation they're in. Jesus looks at the rich young ruler and says to the rich young ruler, hey, sell everything and give to the poor. You only lack one thing. Like what must you do to be pleasing? You only lack one thing. And that's to sell everything and give to the poor. And it says the man went away sorrowful because he was very rich. Jesus doesn't look at anybody else or almost anybody else and say to them, hey, in order to enter into my kingdom, you have to sell everything.
In fact, let me interrupt you there. In fact, Judas says the same thing.
Yeah.
Judas says that she shouldn't have broken the bottle of ointment on your feet because she should have sold it and gave all the money to the poor.
Exactly.
And Jesus rebukes communist Judas.
Correct.
And tells him, actually, the poor you will always have with you, and you can always give to them.
Yes.
So go ahead and give to them. So talk about. By the way, I just have to throw in. I just preached this 2 days ago, Sunday. Jesus goes. This is Luke 12, right before the one you quoted.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Don't fear God, don't fear man, because God can both kill you and throw you into hell."
Yep.
Dramatic pause.
Yep.
Very next paragraph. Don't fear. God cares about you much more than any other of the sparrows. He knows every sparrow. He knows every hair on your head.
Yep.
And you are of much more value to him than the sparrows, right? Yes. He sees all. And so imagine those are two paragraphs right next to each other.
Fear
Don't God because he can throw you into hell.
Yeah.
Don't be disturbed, my friends. God cares about you more than the sparrows.
Yeah.
That's the kind of teacher the Lord is.
Exactly. And he's a teacher that requires you to think. Like he's trying to draw, like God is trying to draw out of us. He's trying to get us to get away from this animalistic, reflexive thinking. This is not how God works. Like he wants you. He doesn't just, he wants to get at who you are. He wants to transform who you are. He's not content to just manipulate you into getting a certain outcome. Like he doesn't value just the outcomes. No. He values getting you in the process. Like this is a really important thing.
So can I riff on that when it comes to the economy part you were talking about?
Go for it.
So something comes to my mind, steel manning the bad system. To steel man the system that we have, the fiat system, I think the idea is we want to keep everyone productive. We don't want money to sit. We want to keep it liquid. So if you have money and you're wealthy, you're investing it back in a business. You're investing it in a bank so the bank can lend out to other people. You're investing in the stock market. We don't want people sitting on money. We want people working hard and keeping the, stuff going. That's the best I can do to steel man it, right? But in order to affect that, in order to motivate you, what they're doing is stealing your money all the time. So you have to keep making more and more and more and more and increasing so-called GDP, you know? And the idea, so that's the steel man for our system that ultimately is not godly, ultimately is taking what you've earned and redistributing it like Judas. And by the way, about Judas, it said he didn't say this because he cared about the poor. This is what John records. He did so because he had his hand in the money bag and he helped himself to it whenever he wanted to. And I can't think of anything better about modern politics than to what what John said about Judas. Having charge of the money bag, he helped himself to it whenever he wanted to. So he wanted to redistribute it the way that he wanted. So now, sorry, I got back to the Bible, got back to Judas, but that's the steel man for it. But the reality is, on a positive note, I think, and you guys can push on me if you want. Imagine you're a VC, like venture capital in San Francisco. Most of them fail. They already know that. They know that. You're a billionaire there. You're Peter Thiel or Naval or one of these guys. And that it's like maybe it's 90%. I don't know the number. Someone knows.
Yeah, it's not good.
And you take a round of funding or you take a loan and the business fails, you don't owe $1 million for 7 generations, all your kids and your grandkids and stuff. But that's how it was in the ancient world. And I know a Korean family locally who talked about moving here from Korea, and it's like that's still how it is in some other countries. You don't take debt because that debt doesn't go away; it goes to your kids. So some of the things in the Bible, and by the way, in at least in Israel, there was a time to recover what you lost. Right? Mm-hmm. It was once every 49 years, and that has informed how the United States was set up. So our country is based on rewarding risk takers and builders. And so if we understand that, it depends on your debt. Is your debt a partnership of some kind? Is your bank saying, hey, we believe you're going to succeed, so here's $100,000 to start a business? Look at the details, What is it that you've actually put on the line? Maybe it's a partnership, and if you fail, it's like you both failed, and you both go back home and try again later. Or maybe you did something that's going to hurt your generation. And that's the maturity and the need to say, what am I actually doing here? Is this like an Old Testament Assyrian or Egyptian, loan that's going to, that's like in the old world, just going to follow you forever? Or you're going to become an indentured servant, your wife's going to become a slave in someone's house. That's the kind of stuff that would happen back then. The founders of the USA made it so that's not how it is now. So we need to also keep the same truths, but shift it into the place and time that we live.
There are still consequences today, and some people's wives do end up having to work. Someone else's.
Yeah. Right? And those are all realities. Like that's all totally true. And so again, it really just comes down to, looking at your different situations and looking at, I just think that people are too quick. And again, I think the other big thing was why are you doing what you're doing? Are you doing what you're doing because you're afraid? Like this is frequently the most repeated command in Scripture, hundreds of times, is do not be afraid. People are warned or just told, don't be afraid, because again, fear makes you do stupid things. It makes you
clouds your thinking.
Correct. Yes. They're afraid of, I'm afraid that this is going to happen to me. I'm afraid that this is going to happen to my family, or I'm afraid that, and so because I was afraid, I did something that I wouldn't do under normal circumstances. And so I stole, or I did, whatever. I took on too much debt, or whatever it is. I think that, you want to be motivated. And so the question is, if it's not fear, well, then what is the thing that ought to motivate you? And the scriptures have an answer for that, which is there's 2 things that ought to motivate you positively. It's love for God and love for your neighbor. And so again, you ought to be thinking, okay, does this thing that I'm thinking about doing, does it honor the Lord? Does it love and serve my neighbor, or does it prey upon my neighbor? And does it, and your neighbor can be your wife, it could be your kids, it could be, your grandkids, it could be, just other people around you. And so again, there can be some complexity there, that's a reality. And so there is room within God's economy. God has room for our consciences. There's the number of passages where it talks about, it says, talking about parenting, it says, we all had fathers who disciplined us as it seemed good to them. He's basically saying, listen, we all had parents who were just, you know, and even if this isn't true in the most complete sense, they were doing their best. And some of them within these parents who were doing their best, there might be some of those parents who did completely opposite things. They were motivated by love for you and a love for the Lord and a desire to honor him and parent you well. And they might have done things that were completely the opposite, polar opposite. No. And yet, like, listen, that's what it's like to live in the world. There's another verse where it talks about, you know, do your best to try to discern what the will of the Lord is. That means that you're not always going to, like what God's will is not always going to be clear. It's not always, it could not always be clear because of some lack of information on your part. It could be because of some weakness on your part. It could be for 100 different reasons. And so, yeah, like this is what we want to do. We want to surrender these things. We want to bring them to the Lord and just ask him, like, Lord, you know, please help me to figure out what to do. Please, you know, bring to mind places in your word. Help me to look online. If you're sitting there, you know, you're looking, like, we have tons of resources available to us in terms of, you know, what does the scripture say about these kind of things? And so I think all of these are, you know, there's wisdom in all of these places.
I had a conversation like a couple of days ago with someone, another Christian, about this, and I made the point. I don't think the Lord really wants us to know his eternal will almost ever, meaning for our life, not his eternal will in Christ and stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the paradigm I think would be helpful is, what is the ultimate eternal goal? And the eternal goal for us is that we're going to be like Christ himself. And so the idea that I want to hear a message, and that's not what you said, Jordan. I'm not putting that in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
I want to hear a message from God. I want to have direction from God. I want to have specific, do I go left? Do I go right? I do think God sometimes does that. You know, in the New Testament, Paul is trying to go into Asia to preach, and an angel stops him or something happens. I don't even know if it describes what happened. He couldn't go into Asia. Okay, well, that wasn't the thing for that time. But the majority of the time, it's saying we considered what would be best. We made a decision. We went here. These brothers wrote a letter to us. We decided to go visit them. We decided to backtrack and go the way that we came. And I think that in the positive paradigm for Christians today is he wants to make you more like Christ. And that means making godly decisions based on what's going on with you. To bolster my argument, I'll also say, you know, look at the parables. He wants you to manage well. He says that if you manage his resources, the talents well, then he's going to put you over cities as a governor, basically. They call it a judge, but it's like a mayor, governor. What in the world does that mean? That is crazy. That has something to do with the eternal state. It's not about primarily receiving messages about, do I go to the left or do I go to the right? It's about eliminating things that would be unwise, unholy, foolish. You eliminate all those things, and then you try to make a good decision with prayer and say, Lord. And that's very, very, very much important in my life now, because I'm trying to make big changes. And I'm praying for God to close and open doors, but ultimately I do think he wants me to try to think like his son and be like his son, and not mainly look for that supernatural, you know, message per se.
I think one. Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say no, I think God in his wisdom, he knows our frame, and he didn't create us to be like a single point of failure. I mean, ultimately we are responsible for all our decisions, but like for us men, for example, he's given us a wife. So like when we're on the top of a fence about to make a bad decision, like our wives save us often, right? But also sometimes even our kids, but also the elders and pastors at our churches, and our friends, you know. And so there's like back up, and like ultimately we need to be walking in humility and and use the people that God's put in our life. Like man, if there's like one word for anybody out there that's still wrestling with any of the things that we're talking about, it's just like, dude, stay humble, like, and be willing to learn from others. Like, it's seriously, like, it's one of those things that, man, it's pride kills, but it also makes life so much more difficult. Like, we miss out on so much of God's blessing. I'm not just talking financially, like, oh, you need to humble yourself and learn about Bitcoin, but it's like, it's humble yourself and learn about like all the areas of weaknesses in our lives. Like, we're so prone to not want to receive counsel and or receive words during sermons and or take things personally when we're reading the scriptures. Yeah.
What you just said would solve the debt issue too, because if you're going to do something significant, you know, with taking on a project or debt, and you haven't shared it with someone who is your brother, who you know would tell you what they think, you know,
Yeah.
can't be a yes man. If you haven't shared that and you haven't asked about that, and especially if you're younger or you know less experienced in that kind of stuff, then you probably should head over to Dave Ramsey's education and just stick with that, you know. But if you're gonna be humble, like what you said, Ryan, and you know bring 1, 2, 3 friends, whatever it might be, and just say I'm gonna do this. Guys, hit me back if you think I'm stupid, you know.
It's one of the best arguments for Bitcoin. It's one of the things that I'm most grateful. I'm most grateful about with Bitcoin, is because right now for up until Bitcoin existed, and I guess you could say this to a degree about gold, but you've got people who are like, listen, if I don't take out a humongous loan, I can't buy a house. If I don't take on a lot of debt, I can't go to college. And so, and I won't be able to have this thing in the future. And there actually is a truthfulness to that to a degree. And I think to deny that it exists altogether is just not, it's just, you're fooling yourself. Like, so the fact that a culture or a nation or whatever embraces and like institutionalizes something that God tells you not to, like you live in this upside down world where you actually are suffering if you don't do that. And so the really cool thing about Bitcoin is you're buying Bitcoin and you're just taking the thing that you have and you just buy Bitcoin with it, and then the Bitcoin goes up in value. And so the Bitcoin is like giving you, like you're getting the return from the Bitcoin without having to take this illicit risk of assuming debt. And I think it's like, I just think about it all the time. I'm like, God, if the only reason you gave Bitcoin to the world was so that I could get a return on investment in a way that keeps my conscience clean, I'll take it. I'm so grateful for it because like I that's one of the like I don't think it's wrong for, you know, there's people, I know tons of people who have mortgages through banks. And like, I don't think that, again, the Lord knows, like, I'm not trying to worry about it, but like, I don't want to go into debt. Like I would just rather not have to do it. And like with Bitcoin, it's a way that it's a way that you can do it. At least going that through like a traditional route. Yeah. Like if I think I'd be willing to like take loans from, you know, family or something like that, because again, this is a God ordained entity. This is a God ordained thing where, you know, God has ordained, like a godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And part of that inheritance can be given before he's dead in the form of a loan or in the form of whatever. Like, I think God has ordained ways for these things to happen. And again, I just thank God for Bitcoin, that, you know, Bitcoin is one of these things that allows you to get some of the benefits that God has intended the world to operate under, which is scarce money, is this thing that God has ordained, without having, so we're proving the truthfulness and the reliability of things that God has said. I just love that. Give me that all day long. Like I'm super grateful for it.
Dude, it's amen. Thank God for Bitcoin. Like it's the system that our culture and our country has created is like a sleazy, slimy carnival of games of like, and you're just like, dude, that, like, I just remember growing up and it was like, what was the purpose of education? None of my peers knew. Like, no, like we didn't know what the purpose of education was, except for it was to get into a good college. Mm-hmm. Like, why do you get good grades? So you can get into a good college. Why do you get into a good college? Oh, because you can get a good job. And it's just like, it just felt so off. And like, it's like, really? Like that's it? And nobody even knew why. Anyways, and then you're like, and then at the time, like, I knew like 100th of what I know now, but of like why everything was broken. It's absolutely insane. And I remember, I think it was like 2012, feeling so like overwhelmed and like, it was like despondent because I really started, my eyes had started thanks to Ron Paul, my eyes had been opened to how broken our government was, our money was, like the military-industrial complex. You're like, dude, these systems are so massive, and we're still suffering under them today. But there was no way to, like, in a sense, you could rebel and opt out, but it was like really, really difficult. Like you had to, it was every person for themselves to like create,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like you can get. I mean, there was gold. Like I'm sure we have got maybe one gold bug listening. I'm like, yeah, you did have gold, and like gold still gives you like inflation adjusted returns. It just like it takes years for these gap ups to happen, but they do happen. So like again, it's not like you had no recourse. And in fact, like that's part of the way that Gary North, I found out, funded his entire thing was he started buying gold, and then like he was buying it early 70s or something, and just made an absolute ton of money to the effect that he was able just to spend his life writing all these books. He didn't ever, like, at least I don't know about ever, but I think for most of the latter years of his life, he didn't have to work a normal job because he had invested in gold. That's and cool. Gold had gapped up and performed. So the idea was, so like we're actually like I mean, in terms of like if you are buying Bitcoin and your Bitcoin, you have a decent amount of Bitcoin, like it's something that could potentially free you up down the road to be able to do things and serve people and communicate some of these ideas to people around you. So man, there's so much more we could say on that front, and hopefully will at some point. I want to move into, let's see here, who we got. Okay, so as we sit here and talk about, hey, listen, thank God for Bitcoin, we have plenty of people who they can't say thank God for Bitcoin. Okay, they still don't get Bitcoin. They don't understand the value proposition, and so they're still operating in the world as if Bitcoin didn't exist, and that is not a fun thing to do. So one of the tweets we have now, I will say this video does have a couple of inappropriate words. So if you have kids in the room, I just want to give you this 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1 to turn this off. Just so your little kids don't hear it. If you're hearing this on the podcast, we have a fantastic friend of mine named George. Thank you, George, who is going to be editing out these words so that you if you're listening to this after the fact, you won't even know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and play this, and then we'll hear what this millennial has to say about the situation that she finds herself in. And I say this as a fellow millennial. Here we go.
Extremely high. Okay. So let me get this straight. There is an employment crisis, a housing crisis, cost of living crisis, brink of war, a population crisis because no one's having kids anymore. I wonder why. And yet we need to stop eating avocados and work a little bit harder. I don't know anyone my age at this point that isn't exploring some kind of side hustle or investment. If you don't have an additional stream of income or investments and wealth accruing somewhere, it is not possible anymore to even participate in society in the way that we used to. Obviously, no one's having fucking kids. No one can afford anything. In the UK, once you start earning over £125,000 a year, you make 29 pence. 29 pence on every pound you make after that point. Less than 1/3 on top of that you keep. And that's not including costs and bills. That's just tax. There's this whole thing of the Henrys, the high earners, not rich yet groups of people that live in cities and are making like extremely high salaries and in theory making a lot of money, but basically have none because of how expensive it is to live in the cities. They're the only places that you can get those kinds of salaries. Meanwhile, the billionaires are taking £1, $1 salaries so that they don't have to pay income tax, borrowing against the assets they already own because they bought up all the houses in this country, so we can't fucking have them. And then just being like, you guys need to work harder, while they're also taking our jobs and giving them over to AI that is not smarter than a human yet. What is this generation supposed to do? Like, I'm asking seriously, what are we supposed to do? Unless I can figure out 50 million different ways to have side hustles, there is no way to do this anymore. Plus the fact that the UK especially is wanting to tax us to the eyeballs on everything. You can't even sell stuff online anymore for over £1,000 before you get taxed on it. They want access to our bank account so they can tax us on the interest over a certain rate. People are opting for lower salaries because eventually the tax outweighs it and it's actually less lucrative to earn certain amounts of money. Then you wonder why no one's having children. I hear one more person blame this on immigrants. I'm going to lose my fucking mind. obviously enough wealth in the world, because while most people are getting poorer, we have the largest number of billionaires we've ever had. My dad works with people who will spend $150 million to ship their luxury car collections and put them on show for fun.
You're on mute.
Let's pause this and go back a little bit. We should have stopped this and then just kind of addressed them as they come, because I forgot there's just a lot here. So I'm going to give you guys obviously the floor here in a second to kind of just what would you say to this girl? How would you think about this? The first thing that I would say is just I'm super sympathetic to this situation, right? Like just super sympathetic. There's so much truth in what she's saying. Like the level of tax, the way that this works, how it affects the incentives. I mean, again, taking lesser paying jobs because you know that if you were to take this higher paying job, you're going to pay more tax, and then the net is going to be that you're not making as much. Like it is so immoral and corrupt. It's not even funny. It's a deficient view of what government is. It's immoral from the word go. I just am super sympathetic. And so I think there's a real sense in which, yes, the problem is out there. Okay. It's out there with governments. It's out there and that's true. And we need to figure out ways to solve that and fight that. And that's something that actually needs to happen with real people. Like, boom, that's 100% the case. And again, we need to do this. At the same time, like Bitcoin exists. Okay. This is another thing that you can do about this is you just start saving in Bitcoin, and, opting out of the system, choosing to invest your money in a different system that is outside of their control, blah, 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 blah. That's another thing. And then, I mean, again, this is not going to do thing. I think these aren't to say that these are all equal in terms of level of importance, but you know what? Those tattoos weren't cheap. Unless she's like a tattoo artist and she's getting these for free. Like, I do think like there does come down to a level of responsibility for, and like just taking an honest assessment of the expectations that we have, for our lives. Like, I don't think, again, I'm not trying to trivialize anything that she's saying. I think that all of these things need to happen at the same time. And yeah, I just think it's one of these things where there can be multiple things true at one time. And then on top of this, yes, her thing where she's saying, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to do this? Unless we're doing multiple side hustles, unless we're doing one of these things. I think that especially as a Christian, this is one of these things where you can just go, you just take stock of the reality that you're in, where you just go, listen, Lord, you literally, every idea that anyone has ever had that's allowed them to make any kind of money has come from you. And so, Lord, I'm sitting out here, I'm trying to figure out how do I operate in this world. Please give me an idea. Even if it's, even if I'm not going to be a millionaire, please give me an idea that would help serve you and honor you and serve your people, and that will provide for my needs. And then just put your hand to the plow, work hard, and go do it. Like, I do think, that's another side of this. Like she's saying, unless you're doing this, it's like, you need to price in doing that. While you're also creating incredibly viral TikToks or whatever, like this that are highlighting the illegitimacy and immorality of the situation that you're in. You should also go out and be putting your hand to the plow and working hard and doing these things, because again, the Lord honors that. He does honor working hard. And so I think there's a lot to be said here, and a lot that we're not in a situation where there is no hope. Like we like with the internet, with cell phones, like we have more access and ability to make money than people have ever had in a very real sense. And it is a matter of just figuring it out and like working hard and again, confessing these problems that you're having to people who are in your circle. Like other people, again, she's got a dad who has a friend who's moving however many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for his car collection. It's like, okay, well, what if we go and talk to him and just basically say, hey, here's the situation I'm in. Is there any way that I could help serve your business and make you money, or whatever, in a way that would, allow me to earn this, or something approaching, or like a path to earning this that would allow me to do what I need to do. Like, I think there's like, that's just one of these things, but I think there really are a lot of people out there, more than we're thinking, who are in a different season of their life where they actually are making a ton of money, or they have more wisdom and skills, that can benefit those of us who maybe are in a different season. I think there is a lot of paths forward, and I get feeling, black pilled and hopeless. I again, I get there momentarily all the time, but at the same time, I think that there is hope. First of all, God exists. There's also hope in, Bitcoin exists. There's also hope in God made you to be a person to go out and exercise dominion over the world and to like use these skills and abilities and strengths and all these things he's given us. He's done these things. Like we're not to be afraid of the world. Like this is not why God created us and how he designed us to operate. So I would just want to encourage this girl too.
Yeah. And I'd also add that God didn't create this lady to bear this burden on her own.
What do you mean, Ryan?
So first of all, it should be her father should be bearing the majority of it, and at the very least, and then she looks old enough to probably be married, and so her husband
she's
should
30.
probably,
so
okay, so I would just say her husband should be bearing that burden. Yeah, the world's a super tough place. It's very broken. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, I think we're going through a fourth turning. I think things are really, really broken. I see it locally here. Inflation is continuing to go up. It's outpacing wages. So young people, like I would say everyone under the age of 55, 60, are getting more and more pinched every day, every week that goes by. Life is getting more difficult. And the money's broken. So obviously and most people don't understand that. So they're just lashing out in despair. So it's going to create a lot of opportunities for especially Bitcoiners who have spent an almost irrational amount of time studying these things. Literally getting to the bottom of it. Like what in the world is going on? Why does everything seem so broken, especially when it comes to money? And there's answers. Like I think that's, but yeah. And also, the older generation, again, they're not fixing the problems. They're letting things fester, and it's literally wrecking the younger generation. And sadly, what's the average age of a member of the House and the Senate? And what's the average age of these politicians in our country? What's the age of our president? What is he? 81, 82?
Something old.
Well, what was Biden? Same thing. Like these guys are like on their way to death. Everything's broken. They're not fixing anything for the younger generation. So I just I know it's awkward to call out the older generation. Like we're talking about our parents oftentimes, but it's broken and they're not even talking about it. They're not talking about solutions because the way things are broken, they're not like the consequences aren't evenly distributed. And I don't know what to say. Like basically what we're living through is it's going to be a shameful legacy. That's like in the history books in 100 years, when they're writing about this time, they're going to say that the older generation did not care about these problems enough to even talk about them as we're going through them, because they weren't harmed as much as the younger generation. And it's just like, it is the biggest, it's a huge bummer. Cause that is the consequence. When life is so stinking difficult and people can barely pay their bills, they're not going to have 4 kids. They weren't raised unless they were raised in a super godly home that they were to listen, like, look, even if you're poor, trust the Lord. Like that is the rarest situation because God does provide. But everyone else is going to, get stressed out about their budget, and they're not going to have any kids. And that's what we're seeing. So we're having population collapse. And I don't know. Like,
I'll jump in there and say, I'll try to bring a little light into it. I was starting with a little darkness though. So if you're wondering if you should blame billionaires or the government, the final answer is the government. But it's in one sense they're the same entity in a sense. But but it's the unholy combination of business and government that's actually the worst.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unholy creature created by the two who have their own purposes, separately. So I think that the way that the Lord would look at the way a society is set up is the magistrates' powers should be very specific. They should have the power of the sword, it even says in Romans 13. They essentially are someone holding a gun, and they can put you in a cage, or they can kill you, or they can take away everything that you have. And what I just said isn't bad. That's actually what they're supposed to be able to do. When it comes to what's the worst that a business billionaire can do is they can be greedy and trick you into buying their stuff, and I'm keeping out like hiring a hitman to kill you or something like that. I'm just saying in general, greed, I'll take greed any day over someone unrighteous with a gun to my head. And that's where the magistrate, the government, ultimately, in my view, bears the responsibility for this. As a small business person, I could easily pay $150,000 in payroll tax in a year and lose $50,000 that year in my business easily. That's not even a question. So what we're giving is not based on what we actually took home. It's based on they get theirs and maybe you don't get yours. And then did they use that wisely? Did they use that for the purposes of what God thinks a magistrate should use them for?
No.
Protecting the citizens, protecting the vulnerable, protecting the widow, the orphan, the alien, the legal alien. Are they using what they take for those purposes? The answer is largely no. They're doing pet projects with them.
Yep.
They love you and they have a wonderful plan for your life.
Yep.
But that's actually supposed to be God. God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life, not the magistrate. They're supposed to be saying, what's your, let's give you freedom to do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
What you want to do. So having said that, that's the sort of negative, but I want to say, if you're wondering, yes, blame government, blame the people in power. And then secondly, I have seen so many success stories too. And I remember a young man who Ryan would know, 15 years old. I'm teaching him how to do carpentry. We're working together. I can remember one particular time we're passing up plywood sheets. I'm up on the rafters and he's passing me plywood after plywood. And finally I get to a point where I say, okay, just hang on for a bit. I got to nail these down, right? Look down. He's picking up trash. He wasn't waiting for me. He's picking up trash. He's cleaning up. He's doing this thing. He's checking with me. Do you need anything else? Okay. He's gone on. He's probably 25 or something like that now, maybe a little older. He's gone on to he's building like luxury homes on Kauai. Everywhere he goes, people are like, did you want work? Did you need any work? I ask him myself, hey, for old time's sake, you want to come help me at my house? He has unlimited work anywhere he goes. He could land on the mainland. He could go to Canada. He could, anywhere he shows up, he has work. He has land. He built his mom a house when he was like 20. His mom lives in the house that he built. He built himself a house behind that house. And that's one of several guys I know who are like that. And so there is also, like, with full respect to her position, there's also a mindset where it's like, take what you can, like look for opportunities to serve. And I'll give one example from my life. Me and Ryan used to work together in a factory, which was not easy, by the way. It was hot. Where we had full days where it was literally just planing redwood and cedar, which is cancer causing, by the way.
Gas
so
mask on.
we had the mask on.
90%
the mask
humidity.
on all day, 90% humidity, all hot, taking the mask off and like wiping the face down and splashing a little cold water on it, when you go to the bathroom. And I got married, praise God. And on my honeymoon, Ryan calls me before the boss to say, hey, Matt, we both got laid off, 2008. So 2008 crash. Oh. Now, even when we got laid off, our boss still tried to give me some work. I was shoveling manure. No, not exaggerating. I was at his ranch. He kept me on for a few more weeks, shoveling manure, taking down fencing, taking apart water catchment tanks. Eventually he decided like there wasn't more work for him. So I walked across the street from my house, which was about a house that was worth about $1,000. and I'm not joking. It was a 20 by 20 metal house that was like being inside of a Vietnamese torture, like heat, thing when you're during the day. And I walk across the street because they're building, and I have no building experience except for factory. And I said, "Hey guys," I just shouted out, "Hey guys, I'm across the street, just got laid off. If you ever need help with anything, whatever it is, just holler over. I'd love to work. It looks like you guys are doing good, but I'm available." So a few weeks later, "Hey, you want to come over here and pick up construction trash?" Yes. I'm 28. I wasn't 20. 28 already.
Humble.
And
Stay humble.
Stay humble. So I go over there, pick up the trash. Call me over the next day. "You want to sand these beams? Sand the beams." Did a couple more things like that. They said, "Hey, we're wrapping up. I know another guy in the neighborhood. $10 an hour." Okay, 10 bucks an hour. He's building a Bali house. I know it's not much money. I built the Bali house for $10 an hour.
Yep.
Next thing you know, by the time that's coming clear, someone else in the neighborhood, "Hey, I'm building a house." I think it was like 15.
Yep.
But guess what I learned?
50% raise, baby. Let's go.
50% raise. I learned how to build houses, electrical, plumbing, drywall, carpentry, roofing, photovoltaic, and I got paid for it. That wasn't in school.
Yep.
Next thing, I built my own house.
Yep.
Okay, so now that I own my own house, I had an opportunity to build a business and lose money for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
So I could go on to where I'm at now.
Chew glass.
I could go on to where I'm at now. I could go on because I didn't have a mortgage. I had no mortgage, right?
Yep.
So this is not the path. This is not the path for everybody, and that's not my point. It's not my point that that's what you have to do. My point is there's another way of looking at it, which is just like, where can I serve? Where can I work?
Yep.
And I've seen it. It's not imaginary. I've seen it in many people's lives. Yep. And so at the same time as someone like this young lady is having real things happen to her, at the same time, guess what? No one can find good workers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ask any business owner. They can't find good workers. No one's going to pick up trash when you say, "Just wait for me for a minute."
Yep.
I'm talking relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So if you're the guy that picks up trash when they told you just hang on, guess what they're going to say? They're going to say to their circle of friends, "Hey, I know this guy. You need pressure washing done." "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He'll help you." "Hey, guess what? There was money in the house. He didn't steal the money, He had opportunity. He didn't do that. He was honest. He showed up. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't high. He had his shoes on. Now you're already in the 5%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the crazy. I mean, yeah, it's like these things can be so straightforward when you're talking about other people, and then like not straightforward when you're talking to yourself. So I'm like, I need to hear this too. But like, I just think about these guys who literally just take a lawnmower and go mow the worst lawn, and they film themselves doing it, and then they just these things get hundreds of thousands of like. It is staggering the amount of money that you can make just by just filming yourself doing menial labor. like that's how absurd the situation that we're in is that you can, I just think, and again, that kind of work isn't going to be for everybody, but at the same time, like the other thing is like, it doesn't have to be your eternal job. I think like that's another thing is like like we get this feeling like, oh, I have to have this job forever. It's like, you really don't. Like you really don't. Like you can. I talk to people all the time who've had like, oh, I've had 6 jobs. I've had 6 different jobs. There are people who obviously have careers, and that works, and that's important. But again, that's just not everybody's story, and you can make things work even if that's not your story.
Yeah. If you're faithful and you work hard, like you'll never be without work, and you'll always naturally get better work, because if you're continuing to push yourself and you're always learning new skills, you'll be in demand.
And it's character before skills, because if you have anyone can learn a skill. The question is, are you going to show up when you said you did? Are you going to be honest about money? And are you gonna not, and that's the problem too with looking at wealthy people or business owners as some other class, right? In that case, you're already looking at them like with stink eye. You show up to work and you got stink eye on. And you could be saying, hey, I could move those $150 million worth of stuff for only $100 million. And then and that's a slight exaggeration, but I'm just saying, if your character is there, the skills can be taught, and if your reputation is there, next level.
Trust and reputation. Like this is one of these things where we live in a world that values the countable, like the things that I can put down on a piece of paper, like this is what I see, and we value those things. And yet at the end of the day, so much of what moves the world is reputation, is trust, is, like I'm going to sign this contract with you, or I'm going to sign this agreement. I'm going to do a handshake agreement for this thing with you because I trust you. And like, this is how the world actually operates at like a lot of the biggest levels. Like like the whip who's in politics, like he doesn't actually have certain levels of authority over these people. And yet again, he's got a reputation, he's got other, because of the life he's lived, because of the people that he knows, because of whatever it is, like you actually, you can have a lot more power even if you don't have like the title or something. And so I think that, like again, like Matt, like one of the things we don't have to go, we need to do a whole other episode, but like, you through a whole random set of circumstances met this dude Naval. And so like you become friends, like you could probably talk to him and like, what is that worth? There's probably guys who are literally paying gazillions of dollars to try to get access to him. And yet, you just did it through paying no money and just hanging out on a website. It's just like that's the reality, is like God, especially as a Christian, like God creates a world. God loves to shame, like and like bring to nothing the wicked. And so where you see a situation that looks dark and that looks hopeless and it looks like this is so bad, there's no way out of this. Like if you're a Christian, you should be like, oh wait, this is exactly the type of situation that God like loves to like, act into and provide for us and to do these kind of things. He loves to do these kind of things. He's been doing it for all of human history because things have been dark for all of human history, basically. And so
I got a Naval quote. I got a Naval quote for you.
Let's go.
He told me, and I told my kids this. Naval said about me, "You have a rich life."
Let's go.
Yeah. And I have a side story, and this is true of Naval, and it's probably true of so many people that you think are greedy money grabbers, right? My brother's in the tech industry too, and he told me he knew somebody who's a programmer, who's just like a genius, but he wasn't really recognized yet. I can't remember. I probably wouldn't even name it if I could remember what he was working on. Yeah. And someone told Naval, hey, you need to pay attention to this guy. This guy's awesome. He's doing awesome stuff. And he wrote him a $250,000 check. Boop.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Naval, if I spoiled that, so everyone else is going to ask you for $250,000. But the point is that happens way more than you think.
Yep.
But you know who it doesn't happen to? Stink eye.
Yep. Yep.
You can't go into it with stink eye.
100%.
And so in my short time, I wouldn't call myself friends, but I'd say I did get to stay at his house, and I was encouraged by him, and I was on his app, and I heard him, not only to me, but to others, offer encouragement to an artist and say, wow, you're a full stack artist. That became their bio. At Naval, full stack artist, Yep. So whether it's him or anyone else out there, it's like, is there an opportunity to somehow, by the way, when I was at his house, his fridge was broken. Guess what I did?
Fix his fridge?
I fixed his fridge.
That's good.
Yeah. So, so anyway, the point is like, that wasn't because I thought I was gonna get money. That was just because like, hey, I'm being hosted and this is something that,
you have skills.
It makes me feel good. And
and
hopefully
skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
I want to say one more. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
I wanted to also say there's just back to what that lady was complaining about, and Javier Milei, Argentina's president. I think he just introduced a bill or a law that their people are not going to be taxed up to $63,000 of income or something like that.
Nice.
And like something else that people need to understand is that like taxes are they should be viewed as almost wicked, especially for the young. The young are trying to start out in life, and when they have such an enormous amount of their income taxed, it's very, very, very hard for them to get ahead. It's very hard for them to save. They're at their lowest earning potential, right? They're just starting out. yet they're taxed really high, and that's not helpful. And so our money's broken, but that also our tax system's broken, and it's broken because of incentives. The incentives are broken.
Yep.
Our government is a giant bloated beast that only it only keeps growing. Like the budgets never drop. Anytime the government budgets get threatened, everyone loses their mind. And sadly, dude, I don't know what's I don't know what's going to change. Like literally, Elon, like we have nationwide protests over a few government workers being let go. Like I don't know what to say. Like the quality of everyone's life in communities is suffering because governments aren't able to do the work that they used to do because salaries are continuing to go up, benefits, all the things like that, while the services that they offer keep dropping. But no, how many people are actually asking the question, why do we need so much government?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, it's this, like, I mean, I know this sounds harsh, but government largely is just an enormous parasite that just sucks, and it's like a leech on the system that sucks the life out of everyone.
And when they decide to do everything, they fail at the things they're actually supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Exactly.
Like
Hey,
Yeah.
what do we want? We want to be safe, and we don't want our parks overridden with drug addicts killing themselves, overdosing on drugs, and crime to go unchecked. Like, we're not complicated people.
Well, and this, but even beyond like what we want, like this really is like it's a crisis of authority, right? Because like if the question is who sets the bounds of what the government is supposed to do, and if the government is just left to their own devices, or even left to the devices of just citizens who are ignorant and who are like kept ignorant through their educational systems and all kinds of stuff, like we're not actually learning about how we could affect governmental change and a lot of these kind of things. Like if you just go along with letting the government write their own job description, well then of course you're going to get bigger government. That's what you're done. It's like this is where I feel like Christians are in some ways like uniquely positioned to basically say, hey, like the scripture, like thus saith the Lord, God created the world to work a certain way. And so especially in terms of insofar as you have voting power, Americans, like you need to know what the scriptures say about what the role of the government is and what the role of the government is not. Because if you don't know, then you're not going to vote accordingly. You're not going to act accordingly. You're not going to do like there's 100 things where it's like, dude, we're half the problem. It's like
100%.
we're setting the table by what we care about, by what we desire. And there's things that we just care about more than actually, honoring what the Lord has said in terms of that we're as individuals supposed to operate, and that how governments are supposed to operate, how, a whole host of different things. Like your demand, like supply and demand is happening in your life. You just don't demand the things that you're supposed to demand.
Yeah. And by the way, I think what you just said is really precise there, Jordan. In a lot of sense, the culture and the government even operates on a, I guess, a supply and demand. Maybe that's not exactly the right way to say it. Yeah. But
they do what they can get away with.
If the people demand that it's different, it will be. Now in history with kings and stuff, what that looks like is cutting their heads off when it gets like really, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't go to that point. But if the people honestly demand that it's different, and you use the example of the whip not having a lot of quote unquote power, I would throw the word in there, influence. That's what Christians should be praying for and desiring, not necessarily wealth, not necessarily power in the governmental sense, but to be influential through ideas and the spreading of truth. Then some of us will be gifted for those other things, called to those things. Yep. But I hope that there's a grassroots movement, in this country, and it has to do with like spreading truth. Yep. And that truth ends up with people demanding that they actually have justice and that the government does their job. I did it. One of my first AI songs was called "Pooping in the Trash Cans." You can find it on my YouTube, and it's a lament. It's a lament.
My SoundCloud.
It's on my YouTube right now, and it's a lament
the YouTube.
about.
We'll allow it. I'll allow it. Shield the YouTube. What's your YouTube channel?
Matt Purvis, Mattpurvis, and I have
You're
like
about to go
seven.
get dozens of more followers.
I have like seven
Several
videos, but it's about how my post office. You used to be able to go to the post office after work and hop in and get your mail, and then all of a sudden it's locked up. Oh, why is it locked up? Because they're pooping in the trash cans. Okay, now that's what the song's about. And I went on to say the sidewalks and the hedgerows. It rhymes and stuff, but the point is, why don't we just stop them from pooping in the trash cans so that the actual citizens can go get their mail? Instead, you go, well, they're pooping in the trash cans. What can we do? And I'm using that as a little tiny piece of culture to say, why are they overdosing on fentanyl on the street? So now the elderly, the young children, families, they can't walk down the street anymore. It wasn't supposed to be that justice is letting people do whatever they want.
Oh, that's a whole.
It was supposed to be. Justice is supposed to be making it so that we can all play together well and do business together well and walk in our cities and stuff. And
we're going to do a whole episode. I don't know if it's going to be on this or if I'll just do it independently or something, or like maybe grab somebody else, but just about how the understanding of freedom has changed over time. And it is fascinating because that word, again, this is like, again, you look at Satan in Genesis 3, he's playing with words. Did God actually say, does God actually, this is the reality, is like governments play with words too. They change the meaning of words. People change the meaning of words to suit them.
They're not even saying, did God actually say? They're just like, now it's they don't even reference our Constitution anymore because the Constitution was was created on biblical values,
exactly.
Completely inspired by Scripture, and now it's being ignored, and they're trying to change it, and yet,
Yeah.
Well, Mike Schellenberger in California, he made the point about, is it really, like, you could say, well, you took this least of these. God wants you to love the least of these, and you took this addict and you locked him in a cage and you forced him to do stuff against their will. And again, that's a flipping of it. And Schellenberger talks about, what if your grandma was on dementia and she's walking down the middle lane of the road and she doesn't know where she is and she doesn't know how to get home. And nobody even knows who she is. She just walked out of her door and she doesn't know where she is. And someone comes and says, "Excuse me, do you want help? Do you need help? Do you need who are you? Where are you from? Can we help you? This is not safe." And she says, "Oh no, it's okay. I'm going home." Do you just go, "Oh, problem solved.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's just let her wander down the street till she gets hit by a bus." And that's kind of the point. No, you would say, "Please grab my grandma.
Well,
I'll pick her up."
If she was on drugs,
please.
That's exactly what people would do.
And that's what Schellenberger is talking about. He says that, and that's the same thing. Do you love these people? They're literally killing themselves. Okay, so justice is not saying everyone else has to fear for their lives and be stepping over human feces and not getting their mail at the post office. Instead, like, love those people by helping them get better. And by removing, again, this is opening up a giant can of worms.
We should do a whole episode on that.
Yep, we definitely will. We will close today by looking at somebody in a different situation who, again, a little bit younger. So again, not trying to trivialize the situation that the other lady was in. She's 30, according to the post. This girl just graduated college, so she's probably 22. She had this to say: Halston Isabella. We follow her on Twitter. "I just graduated from USC. I now have a bachelor's degree in business economics and a master's in marketing, which took over 42 units of finance and economics courses. And still, none of those courses taught me what I learned on my own. No class explained the truth of the broken system we live in. It was brushed off. I found that through late nights and early mornings studying Bitcoin, questioning fiat, and questioning everything I'd ever been taught about economics, realizing the financial world is built on sinking sand. I read Lynn Alden's book, read the Bitcoin Standard Principles of Economics, The Big Print by Larry Lepard. Jack Mahler's podcast helped me put words to what I was feeling: rage, urgency, hope, and purpose. Hearing Adam O'Brien, shout to Adam, friend of the program, Bitcoin Well, talk about Bitcoin as a way to protect his kids' future made me realize that I want that too. Bitcoin gave me clarity. It gave me hope. Choosing Bitcoin isn't about wealth. It's about building something real for my future family. It's the hardest money there is, one that comes with strong conviction. I'm making a decision now to become someone my future kids will be proud of and grateful for. A decision to reject comfort, to choose discipline over dopamine. I don't want to waste my 20s watching Love Island, mindlessly scrolling TikTok, or watching football each week. I want to understand the truth behind financial markets and why the system is built to keep us dependent. I want to see through all the noise, stack sats, build conviction, become unshakable, and tell the story of sound money. I'm not like the rest of my generation, and and I'm okay with that. I would again heartily, recommend and encourage and affirm a lot of that. And I don't think that she would necessarily reject this, given other things that we can learn about her, given her sash and other things. But yeah, even all this like knowledge, there's a limit to the value of knowledge. Is all I would say. Like knowledge, we want to learn things, and I mean, just meaning comes from devoting your life to people and like just serving your community, creating a family, serving your family. There's even just accumulating Bitcoin, having lots of Bitcoin, and having lots of things like there's a limit to the value of these things. There's a limit to the happiness and satisfaction and joy that these things will give. But they are a good part of a larger whole that will give your life meaning, and again result in you living a life that serves those around you and is a net gain on society rather than a drain.
Amen.
Yeah, let that take away. Earlier I talked about the anxiety that I think some Bitcoiners have. Let that kind of take away some of that anxiety. You have a life ahead of you of service to fellow man and God.
Yep.
And you can earn, and you can save, and you can build, and you should aspire to that. And so you stack sats, but don't do it in an anxious way. Like, this is my one chance. 2025 is my one chance in my entire life. Or whatever it might be. Let that anxiety find its proper place, like what you said, Jordan.
Yeah, and until Bitcoin becomes like the global currency and it completely takes over, as long as fiat currencies are around in every country in the world, people are going to be stolen from when they hold that fiat currency. So buying Bitcoin at just at the most basic level, it's just a way of taking what you've been given and preserving it from being stolen. Like it's just basic stewardship. It's not complicated. If you leave it in the fiat currency, it is going to be debased, which is them stealing some of what you've earned. It's like them breaking into your house and stealing a little bit of it.
Yep.
So putting it in Bitcoin just simply preserves that and prevents it from being debased and stolen. So,
yep. Amen. Anyhow, we are grateful for all of you. If you're finding benefit from these, one of the things that you could do to help support the future of this podcast is to run over to Apple and Spotify and leave us reviews. Run over to YouTube and subscribe and like and interact with posts. With all these different algorithms, that's one way to help break through the noise and to help ensure that other people find this going forward in the future. Matt, Ryan, super grateful for you guys, and we will be back with the Mountain Presbys on Thursday with another episode of To the Unknown Pod. And I might do at least one other episode this week. We'll see, and you can keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll see you on the next episode of To the Unknown Pod.
Awesome, guys.